Hello everyone and welcome back to My Opinion, and today I'm going to be talking about match 38 and 39 of IPL 2021. Now the first of the two games today was CSK versus KKR. Now this encounter has always been such a great matchup to watch, and I actually think that this matchup is probably the most hero versus villain matchup of all the matchups in the IPL, and the hero being CSK and the villain being KKR. Now, that may also be a lot to do with the fact that I support CSK, but also in the way where the overwhelming support usually for this game is behind CSK. And yeah, there's a lot of jubilation, especially I remember when in IPL 2018, where there was the only game played in Chepauk, but when Jadeja hit that six off Vinay Kumar and CSK won from a seemingly unwinnable position, yeah, it was a lot of celebration, which was short lived because they then moved the home games to I think Pune, which was quite sad. But yeah, it was just that this encounter has always been such a great encounter to watch, and I do like both of these teams, and especially with KKR, with the kind of cricket they've played in their last two games, beating RCB, a team that has thrashed them in the past three encounters before that, and also Mumbai Indians, who I think before this it was 22-6 to Mumbai Indians, and now it's 22-7 because KKR managed to finally win the second game against Mumbai Indians since 2016. And yeah, coming into this game, it was definitely apparent that this team was going to be a harder proposition to face than what they would have been before. And CSK, really needing one more win. I think we're on 8 wins now after we won this game. So yeah, needing one more game until I would say they've pretty much qualified at this point. I don't think it's automatic as yet, but even if we lose our last four games, 8 wins and 6 losses, considering the scrap that's going on for, I'd say, the third and fourth place, I think CSK and DC are through. So yeah, KKR batted first. I don't remember who won the toss, but it was KKR batting first, and Shubman Gill got run out very early, which was a good breakthrough for CSK. And the second wicket partnership, it was kind of a very breezy partnership, and KKR at one point were 50 for one in 5 overs. And considering this game is happening in Abu Dhabi, and the thing is that you saw the game yesterday where I talked about the fact that for me, Sharjah now is harder to bat on than Abu Dhabi and Dubai. And I talked about the fact that it can't get much worse to bat in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, meaning it can't deteriorate past a certain point. And considering by that logic, there'll still be a base to build upon in Abu Dhabi. 50 for one in 5 overs and the pitch not slowing up as much, KKR could have a platform to get quite a decent score on this surface, and a match-winning score on this surface. And luckily, I think Venkatesh Iyer was the second wicket to fall. He got caught behind. Yeah, I think from that point onwards, CSK managed to claw back into the game. Owen Morgan walked in at number 4, but he got out, quite soon. I think he scored 8 or something. And soon KKR found themselves, and by the time the fourth wicket fell, they were 89 for 4, and I think 12.2. And they found themselves in, considering the start they got, and also, you wouldn't really want to be in that kind of situation. They found themselves in a bit of bother. And Nitish Ranaki, I was kind of surprised with, the fact that he did so well in the first half of this IPL, and yet Owen Morgan walked in a 4, and they actually changed an opening partnership that was doing quite well for them. I know Venkatesh Iyer has done well and he's given the team fast starts, but Nitish Rana was getting some, quite hefty kind of like 60 odd scores quite regularly, and I guess it is a bit hard on him that I think he scored what 37 or something today, but it's a bit hard on him that he got his opening slot taken away from him. And yeah, KKR, they were at one point 102 for 4 or 5. And Dinesh Karthik, he walked in I think number 6 or 7, and he played an innings of 26 off 11, and he played a brilliant innings, which I thought that, until about the 130 odd point, KKR were definitely trying to get back on track, and Dinesh Karthik aided that a lot because from the very first boundary he hit a 6 off Sam Khan, which is basically almost It was almost a leg stump Yorker, and Dinesh Karthik targeted the shorter leg side boundary and kind of just shoveled it over for 6. And it's a great shot. And the thing is, I've said this many times, that I believe that he's the best finisher in the world. And honestly, yeah, that's the thing, because he finds a way to score runs, whether it's targeting the smaller boundaries, whether it's converting the things that many people do. This what I'm going to say here, the kind of converting the Yorkers into half volleys and full tosses, but it's the way that I feel like it's embedded into his game more than anyone else, because he does move around a lot in the crease, and especially you saw in 2020 he did try to target the leg side a lot by moving across his stumps, and I mean quite far across his stumps. And it was deemed that he was supposedly out of form when he walked in, towards the top of the order. But whenever he, walked in with not many overs to go in an innings, in a situation where he had to play this quick fire innings to propel his team to a higher total, he did that more often than not, and he did it today as well. And I think that his innings really, CSK were, if there was only 150, there probably wouldn't have been. I would have thought CSK could still, chase it down. But I thought his innings was the difference between a 150 and what they got in the end, which is 171. And I thought at that point that KKR were in the driving seat and were probably going to win the game, because I thought with the Lockie Ferguson factor, I thought that, with many people in CSK rusty, would you really want to face 150 or thereabouts every ball for 4 overs? As in, for 4 overs, you'd effectively face 150 every ball. And would they really want to do that? No, they wouldn't. And the Sunil Narine factor with, his record against MS Dhoni, and especially, I think it was at this ground where CSK were going to win, and they lost by 2 runs because Dinesh Karthik, when he was captain, held back Sunil Narine. And it was incredibly difficult with him and also Russell bowling at the death as well. It was incredibly difficult for CSK to get the runs, and they didn't require much at that point, but KKR managed to win the game and steal the victory from CSK. And I definitely thought that, not only them, but Varun Chakravarti as well, bowling as well as he is. He's called up to the, Indian T20 squad for the World Cup, and he should have been in there for, I think, the Australia tour, but he got injured, unfortunately. And it's great that he's getting his opportunity now in such a, a major world event. And it's just the fact that with these bowlers in the KKR squad, I just thought that it would be a stiff chase for CSK. And from the very start, however, I think CSK got 52 runs in 6 overs in the power play without losing a wicket. And there were some shots in that. I mean, Faf du Plessis, the way he dealt with Lockie Ferguson, I thought that for some of them especially, it was more of a... He went more back and across than usual. Not so much across, because he went, he did go across as well, but he went, it was a kind of an exaggeration, especially with the way he went back into his crease, just to deal with Lockie Ferguson. And the way he hit him straight down the ground. And Lockie Ferguson, I think he gave 18 runs in his first 2 overs. And it wasn't necessarily because he bowled badly, because he was bowling quick, and he was, he wasn't really bowling bad balls. It's just Faf du Plessis, he had a plan against him and he executed it. And especially, I think, who's it? Ruturaj Gaikwad played 2 of these shots. Like, he just used his feet to Sunil Narine and hit him over mid-on. And it was the second one was slightly towards like the cover area, but still you could say it was over mid-on. And the first one was much more straighter. And he just showed the amount of confidence he has of a bowler like Sunil Narine. And CSK got 52 without loss in 6 overs. Both the openers scored 40 odd, and Ruturaj Gaikwad getting out to Andre Russell after hitting for 6, and he charged down the track to Andre Russell. I think the first ball he bowled, I didn't quite know where the ball was going to go at first glance, seeing the shot he was trying to play, but it went for 6, and again, I was very pleasantly surprised. Unfortunately, though, he got out the next ball. It was kind of a ball that rose from the back of the length, and he closed the bat face too early. And he was caught off a leading edge. And he got out, and then I think Moeen Ali came in, and there were effectively 3 scores this innings: 240 odds by Gaikwad, du Plessis, a 32 from Moeen Ali, and then there wasn't necessarily much else, and until obviously Jadeja came in, and CSK, they were going quite well at one point. I think Raidu and Moeen Ali were batting, and Russell got injured. He was struggling, and so he couldn't bowl, and they had to steal one over from somewhere, and so Venkatesh Iyer bowled an over. And I think that from that point onwards, CSK found it hard to get the runs per balls down to a favourable amount, and the reason why it even went to I would say as much of a nail biter as it did was, yeah, I mean, ever since that over, they just couldn't get the boundaries away until Jadeja came in. And I actually thought that they were lucky that, Lockie Ferguson, CSK couldn't get him away, especially when Reina was batting. But yeah, well, I mean, it's not like he couldn't get him away, but I'm just saying that, especially in his last over, it was a crucial over. And again, they couldn't get him away, and yet they were lucky, I thought, that he bowled the extras, and especially including a no ball, and he gave 9 runs off his final over, which I thought was crucial, because Lockie Ferguson is an excellent death bowler, in my view, the hardest bowler to hit in the world, and him finishing his overs fairly early, I think with 3 more overs to go, was a bold decision by Owen Morgan, but also CSK were very lucky that Lockie Ferguson gave 9 off that over, because they were sorry he gave 9 off that over because they needed 40 off 24, and a good over from Lockie Ferguson, maybe only costing 4 or 5, would have meant they would have needed 9 and over. And maybe with the way Jadeja was going, would he have backed himself to hit that? Maybe, but especially when it came to the last over where they needed 4 off 6. And I thought that, now before that, by the way, now Dhoni came in, and honestly, I never really thought that he was going to do much, and this isn't something, I'm not saying anything bad about him, but especially in the way he got bowled for 1, and it was in the same over after Reina got run out. And it wasn't ideal for CSK at that point, and because Dhoni has finished many games, and especially obviously we all want to see Dhoni back regardless who you support, and of course KKR fans would have wanted him to get out, so they would have been happy. But what I'm trying to say is that, especially you saw in the stump cam from the base of the stumps, is that he just, the thing about Varun Chakravarti is that he is, I think it says that he's an off spinner, but he's a mystery spinner. Like, you don't quite know what he would classify as, and so Dhoni has struggled against mystery spinners, especially Sunil Narayan, and especially in the stump cam from the base of the stumps, when you saw the bat swing that he tried to do, but then he missed the ball, you could tell he didn't quite know what to expect. And so that's the reason why I'm not very surprised that he did get out. But yeah, I think he scored 1 of 3 or 4 balls, and Jadeja walked in. Now Jadeja, the thing is, yes, he played very well, of course, and I think he hit 22 of 8 balls. I mean, that's the reason why we even won the game. And he also bowled well as well. I think 1 for 21 in his 4 overs. But Prasidh Krishna, he's a good bowler, but at least 3 of the 4 deliveries he bowled were gifts. I mean, the first one, he bowled a short ball that Jadeja pulled away for 6 over, I think it was backwards square leg. Then he bowls one that's in the slot, he hits it for 6. And then I think he bowls 2. I think Jadeja also hit 2 boundaries near the point region, which also weren't very good deliveries. So yeah, it's just the fact that he didn't really bowl those 4 balls well. The second one was in the slot, Jadeja hit it for 6, and the 2 of them were weren't great deliveries. Jadeja could hit it through point, and he bowled 4 deliveries that weren't very good, and ultimately cost KKR the game, because with the way Sunil Narayan bowled that last over, he could have defended he almost defended 4 runs, or at least almost took it to a super over. If he had got 8 runs to work with, he may have even defended it. And I just felt like those 4 balls cost KKR the game, and a KKR that's been playing such good cricket in the past 2 games and also played great cricket in this game. Apart from those 4 balls, I mean, they should have won this game. And yeah, Jadeja batted brilliantly and also bowled economically. And CSK, it was a bit of a nervy ending, but Deepak Chahar kept calm and swept Sunil Narayan for a single. meaning that CSK won on the last ball of the innings by 2 wickets. And it was a great game to watch, and I'm very happy that CSK won because it effectively qualified for the playoffs now. As far as KKR, I think they're in they've lost 6 now, and they're in this position. The problem for them is, despite the fact that they've had this resurrection, they now don't really have a fallback option of losing. Do you really want to, try your luck with 7 wins? I'm not really sure you do. And, knowing KKR, I'm not saying they're going to do this with their current form, but if they do, they can sometimes tend to. You saw in the first edition, if they completely, in the first half, if they completely bottle it and their net run rate goes down, which, they may do, is 7 wins and 7 losses, will it be enough to take them through? I'm not sure. So because, they wouldn't want to risk it, they have to win all their remaining games. And I think, they can, because in 2014, they won 9 in a row to win the championship. They should have been 3 in a row today. They're playing some great cricket, and I think that there'll be an interesting team to watch in their last few games. So now Mumbai versus RCB. Now I would say the 4 most star-studded teams in the competition all play today against each other. And Mumbai versus RCB with Kohli, De Villiers, Maxwell, Bumrah, Rohit Sharma, Quinton de Kock. I mean, the list goes on with how many star players played in that game. And so this game is always I've always looked forward to this game, and I actually think even more. Of course, MICSK is probably the biggest derby of the IPL, but for me, this one has been such a great one as well, because both these two are very. I know CSK are an emotion-filled side as well, but both these two as well, Mumbai and RCB, especially RCB, it's an emotional roller coaster, and I just think that it's always been a very passionate encounter between these two sides. Now today, RCB did win, but I will talk you through the game to tell you exactly how they did. So RCB batted first, and Kohli, I think he should have got out on the very first ball, but he was his very first ball, but he was dropped. And on when it was 7 runs, Bumrah in his first over, the second over of the match, he brought a Jaffa to Padikal to get him out. And the early inroad was very advantageous for Mumbai Indians. And I thought that despite the fact that they had lost their 2 games, they are a class team. They probably have the best top 7 in the batting lineup in the tournament. So I did think that they were favourites to win this game. And Shrikar Bharat came in at number 3, and he played some great shots, especially when he hit the boundaries of the spinners, and especially the 6 he hit before he got out. I think he did a bit of a fist bump celebration. I think it was off Rahul Chahar, and he got out the very next ball. I think he may have slightly got a bit too excited. I don't really blame him, because 1, he's batting well. 2, as Kevin Peterson said, you're batting with Virat Kohli, and who doesn't want to bat alongside him, and you want to make the most of it. And I think that he did play very well. And considering that RCB, I talked about the fact that in the first half, I talked about the fact that I think they don't. It's either that they don't have a number 3, or they don't have a number 6, because it's kind of makeshift slots filled in. And if Shrikar Bharat can play that role at number 3, I think that RCB have found quite a good option there. Now Kohli, once again, he played brilliantly, honestly. At least for the first 19 balls or so, he was on 28, he was hitting boundaries, just all the classy shots. And he did slow down afterwards, though. Obviously, look, in the middle overs, in the places that they are playing the games, it is expected that after the power play, you're not going to expect, especially, an opener to continue that vein of free-flowing scoring. But with Kohli, he has slowed down quite a lot. Now, RCB and Virat Kohli in the IPL haven't got a great run rate from overs 7 to 15, and especially in IPL 2020, I think they got a rate of barely close to 7. And that's the reason why I'm not very surprised that Kohli did slow down, but it definitely by the time when he got out, he was struggling to really get the ball away, and he got to 50. He scored 51, and honestly, with those with those skeptical on Kohli's form, the fact is that in his last 6 innings, his lowest score has been 5, and his second lowest score has been 44, which he scored in one of the tests against England. And then he scored 4 50s, which he is in quite good form now, and he's gonna need to continue that for RCB to get the wins that they need to progress. Because I think right now they're after winning this game, they're 1-6 and lost 4. They need to get 2 more wins, and I think they should qualify. Yeah, so Akoli got out for I think it was 51, but not yeah, he got out, but then before I'm going to talk about him getting out, Maxwell came in. Now, the partnership, after that start that they got, things did slow down. I think RCB were 82 for 2 after 10 overs, after getting quite a good start, quite a quick start actually. And yeah, it's just the fact that Glenn Maxwell, the innings that he played today, I've watched many Glenn Maxwell innings, and if you asked me what was the best innings before this game, I would have, and even after it, I may probably just still say that. But the 60 off 22 here in a losing cause in the 7th ODI in Bangalore when Rohit Sharma scored his double hundred. Australia scored 326 in the end, but he came and as Glenn Maxwell walked in and he gave the crowd something to not necessarily cheer about because they would have wanted him to get out, but definitely something to be in awe of because he is 60 off 22 and yeah, just injected this momentum into the game. And I honestly think that's the best innings that I've seen him play. But this one, the reason why I found this very unique was because of how often he went for the reverse option. And especially in a time when the innings could have easily stagnated much more than it did. I just felt like it was just being held afloat. Because if Maxwell had struggled to find the boundary like Kohli had, and had not taken the risks that he took with the reverse option to find the boundaries, then it would have been extremely difficult for RCB to get to even the score they did, which even that was curtailed. And so I thought that his innings was vital to the score, and especially with Kohli after being 28 off 19. In the next 23 balls, he only hit 23 runs. And especially you've seen that in the other game as well. I think it was 33 off 20 or 33 off 21, and he hit 20 off 20 afterwards. So clearly in the middle overs, and especially in conditions where it is going to be harder to score in the middle overs than the power play, and with the trend of RCB and him, I just think that it's kind of been expected that he does slow down after the power play, but he does pick up in the death overs. And I guess the problem is that if he was around until the death overs, there wouldn't really be, he with the way that he strikes the ball at the death, of course he would make up for the slower phase from over 7 to 15. But the problem is he's scoring 50s, and they're high class 50s, but he gets out. So he doesn't really, he leaves the team or the other players that come after him they have to get used to the surface, and in these conditions it isn't easy when you have to kind of go, you don't have much time to get yourself set and you have to start hitting quite soon. So that is definitely one thing, but he is getting the runs, which is good. And Glenn AB de Villiers walked into bat. He in the second, but it didn't take long. In fact, his second ball, he hit a 6 off Bumrah, which was, he moved back in his crease, converted the Yorker into a half volley, and hit it over mid wicket for 6. And yeah, just the fact that RCB were going quite well. I think there were 2 overs to go, and RCB were 130. So yeah, at least 130 something. Well, no, I think even more than that actually. 140 something for 3, and then the problem was that in the last 2 overs they couldn't quite get things away, especially in the last one. I think they were 162 in at the start of the 19th over. Then Jasprit Bumrah, comes in and bowls that brilliant last over, which RCB could only manage to get 165 for 6 in the end. I think that's about that, 165 for 6. And they were looking at one point to get 170, high 170s or even 180 plus, but they couldn't because they were curtailed brilliantly by the Mumbai Indians, especially Jasprit Bumrah getting the important wicket of AB de Villiers as well, and Glenn Maxwell. So and I think he's got Glenn Maxwell 7 times in 15 innings. So they managed to curtail RCB to 165 for 6. And I thought Mumbai were 80% the favourites to win the game at this point with their batting lineup and with the RCB pace that are not necessarily finding form in their first 2 games and with the power play style because it was effortless. I mean, I would say especially in the first 5 overs, it was a tale of 2 halves. And the first 15 balls, RCB were quite disciplined in their lengths and Mumbai could only score 12 runs despite not losing a wicket, only 12 runs in the first 2.3 overs. Then ever since that Jameson no ball, he conceded 3 fours in a row of Rohit Sharma. And ever since then, Mumbai Indians were kind of in a bit of a cruise control mode with also, I think, Dan Christian also giving 15 runs as well in the 1 over that he bowled before coming back at the death, or when Mumbai Indians had lost quite a few wickets at that point. And yeah, just the fact that Mumbai Indians were, I think, 56 without loss or something after 6 overs, and it seemed like they were going to win quite easily. And then the game went into a bit of a lull because after Quinton de Kock got dismissed, they actually sent Ishan Kishan in, and Rohit Sharma said in the post-match presentation that they wanted to give him that freedom to, just take on the bowling. No, and I understand why they did that because you don't, especially when the openers have given you that stand, and we've seen in so far that it's hard for the middle order to pick up where they left off because the conditions, the pitch does slow down and it gets harder for batting. So having someone who tries to take on the bowlers and maintain that momentum isn't necessarily a bad thing, and that's the reason why it was a good it was a good idea for him to bat ahead of Surya Kumar Yadav when usually that wouldn't be the case. The game went into a bit of a lull, and yes, Rohit Sharma, he went from 34 off 22 to 40 off 23 with a 6 off Glenn Maxwell. But then I think at the end of the 10th over, he got out to Glenn Maxwell as well, who bowled very economically overall, and he got 2 for 23, I think, in his 4 overs, on top of scoring a vital 56 in the first innings. And it was 79 for 2 in 10 overs. Now, straight away, you thought Mumbai are slightly behind the 8 ball. But as I've said quite a few times in regarding these conditions is that it is very hard. You have to apply yourself to such a high level to try to double the score that you have at the 10 over mark. So 79 times 2, 158 is not quite enough. And in any other condition, you think you only need, so the target being 166. So you only need 87 runs off the last 10 overs. And in any other situation, it'll be a walk in the park. But when you just need to apply yourself, when you have to just work much more harder to ensure you're not behind the 8 ball, 87 of 10 overs can prove to be quite a task, and it did, because just after that, Ishan Kishan has not been in great form in this tournament. Surya Kumar Yadav, he played a few good knocks in the first leg, but so far he hasn't had a score in these 3 games, and they both got out. And Karen Pollard, and here's the thing here, right? And I actually agreed with what the commentators said, because I think they rejigged the batting lineup also because they tried to make a left-right combination. And Krunal Pandya walked in instead of Karen Pollard. But what it enabled them to do is not only did he hit overall 5 of 11 balls and get out, Glenn Maxwell was bowling and he bowled the overs, he bowled more overs because Virat Kohli saw that it was working, and because Kunal Pandya was kind of blocking for a bit, no one was really taking on Glenn Maxwell. And especially with the way Kunal Pandya got out, tried to go down the track and just heave, and he got bowled off Glenn Maxwell as well. Just a frustration. I think that if either Karen Pollard or Hardik Pandya had walked out ahead of Kunal Pandya to try and attack Glenn Maxwell, because at that point you need impetus, because as I said, it's not very easy to come by in these conditions, especially after the 10 over marker. So you have to work that much more harder to double your score at least. And they, because of that, RCB by that point the run rate had gone up, and by the time Pollard and Pandya were batting together, they Mumbai needed 67 runs of 30 balls. And okay, but these two, they could do it, but Hardik Pandya hasn't played cricket for a long while, and Karan Pollard, he has to get used to things. But the problem is, in these conditions, obviously you're thinking, what you and anyway with scoreboard pressure, you're thinking only have 5 overs left. They kind of milked along for up to the 24 ball mark. So I think they did like 63 of 24 or something. And the thing is, they would have at that point, both of them going a less than a run a ball, they would have thought that they needed to hit. And Harshal Patel came in. Now, ever since that 37 run over that he's bowled, he's not looked very confident at all. And he was on 19 wickets at the start of the day. And I thought that he bowled quite well today, because the slower stuff that he bowled was aided by the conditions, and he operated very intelligently to make life hard for the Mumbai Indians. And honestly, his wickets started ever since Hardik Pandya, he thought he had to go, and he swung at the ball, and the ball went high, and Kohli caught the catch. And honestly, from that point onwards, you kind of thought, okay, there's one man, Karan Pollard, who can still do this, but it is RCB's game at this point. And the bluff that he bowled to Karan Pollard, the very next ball, Karan Pollard slightly moved across, and it was a slower ball from Harshal Patel, and bounces and hits the stumps. And at that point, it was game over. And the only thing that was on there was Harshal Patel's hat-trick. Now, he did get that hat-trick. It was a loopy kind of a Yorker to Rahul Chahar. And I don't think it personally should have been given. It seemed like it was going down leg. But, I guess he kind of did deserve it. And meaning that he also got a fourth wicket as well after the hat-trick, and which is the last wicket of the game, and he's ended up getting 9 wickets against the Mumbai Indians alone this season, taking his wickets tally to a ridiculous 23 with only 10 games played, considering that he went a bit of a rough patch in the past few games. So he bounced back magnificently, and Mumbai Indians got all out for 111. Now, me being a CSK fan, with Mumbai Indians being our most direct rivals, but even I felt bad for them, because they are a brilliant team. And I just feel like the problem with them is that no one, apart from Quinton de Kock, no one is actually in that concrete of form. You've got the two openers, and then you've got with the conditions, the problem is their power hitters, and especially their triumvirate. And I think that confuses it as well. So Karan Pollard, Hardik Pandya, and Kunal Pandya, the trio they rely on to get them the runs, and at the back end of the innings. The problem in this, as I said, I've said this before, is that it's in these conditions, the batsmen that come in later on, it's very hard for them, because the pitch gets it slows up quite a bit, and they don't have much time to get in, and because they actually don't face that many deliveries, and so they have to go from the start, and because of that they can't get any concrete scores, and they can't get any confidence in turn, or much confidence in turn. And I think that's what happened in the Mumbai Indians, is that the fact is, especially you saw, and this is definitely translated from the first leg in Chennai, where it was even more so that the thing that I said, it was even more so that it was harder for Mumbai's power hitters coming later in the innings to get going. That lack of confidence from there definitely translated to here, and because of that, Mumbai Indians actually haven't found their mojo in the batting past the openers. And because it's just the fact that they bowled brilliantly to curtail RCB to 165 for 6, and a confident Mumbai Indians batting lineup would have waltzed through this total, or even more than waltz, they would have played it so well, because in IPL 2020, I said that Mumbai Indians were immune from the trend setting, and I just felt that with the others in Abu Dhabi, let's say 174 or something like that would have been a winning score, but then you'd back Mumbai Indians to chase that down. And I definitely thought, with the fact that RCB's pace bowlers have not hit form in the past two games, I definitely thought the Mumbai Indians could try and win. But unfortunately, they lost. And yeah, just the fact that they've now lost three in a row. And I still think that they will qualify. I think that they are a good enough team to beat the rest because, well, they've lost to CSK, KKR, and RCB. The other three teams that you could say are trying to get into the playoffs. You'd say DC, CSK, and right now, based on current form, I'm saying I'd say DC, CSK, KKR, and MI. And if MI have lost to KKR and CSK and an RCB that has been in the top four, I wouldn't necessarily say it's that much of an alarm bell, considering that obviously chasing a total in these conditions would be quite difficult. And yeah, I still think that Mumbai may as well win their last four games to qualify. I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but it's going to be much more of a difficult challenge than before. So yeah, that was these two games. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and please share this video with your friends. And remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?